FM News Talk 97.1.
On-demand audio.
Let's talk about Huma Abedin's boss for a minute. When she was at State and started down the path that led us to the deal in Iran, which ended up being brokered by John F. Kerry and Barack Obama, who was determined to get this deal done for his legacy. And quite frankly, at any cost, as we're starting to learn, wouldn't you say? Claudia Rosett's joining us right now from the Independent Women's Forum. She's a policy fellow there, and we appreciate you joining us, Claudia. How are you?
Great to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. So what else are we learning? Because I know that we hear the $400 million in cash on a pallet that was delivered to Iran in the middle of the night, but there's a lot more money that's being turned over to them.
Yes, $1.3 billion at least, which was sent as part of that same settlement in January. And what's especially eye-catching here is that the $1.3 billion, which the administration told us was its negotiated compromise of interest over 35 years on the $400 million that was sent in cash, that money, the administration refused for months and months, despite questions from Congress, the press, to say when it sent that money or how it sent that money, except that it went from this obscure fund in Treasury called the Judgment Fund. It turned out to be something of a blank check. Okay, this is to pay out claims against the U.S. government. And it is a strange thing called an open-ended appropriation from Congress. In other words, the administration found a way to send $1.3 billion to Iran through this Treasury fund, where the administration of President Obama didn't have to ask Congress. He just had his attorney general say, this is fine, it's a good thing for the country. We never saw the evidence of that. We still haven't. And they sent it in the form of 13 payments, each for a penny under $100 million. I came across this in the Treasury database a week ago on Friday as 13 payments for $9,999,999 and plus one more for $10 million. Okay, the State Department then said, they couldn't they couldn't confirm anything. What were those payments? They were obviously the Iran settlement. First State said, we can't say anything. It's confidential. Then on Wednesday, they finally confirmed, yes, that was the Iran settlement. But there's so much they still won't tell us. For instance, why were they broken down that way? That's a way of sending payments where if you or I tried that on a smaller scale, we would have federal agents at our door asking, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, I was just going to say if you try to bring money back into the country, it's got to be in denominations of less than 10,000. So people might transfer 9,999 to try to avoid detection of some sort, right?
Yeah. No, there might have been a technical reason for this, but again, the administration simply won't say. And when they're doing something where it's all a penny under $100 million at transferring this money out of the country, we still don't know where exactly they transferred it to, or whether it was then sent on electronically to Iran, whether it was exchanged into cash for more pallets in the middle of the night. We don't know. They won't tell us. And this is, here's an important thing. The $400 million cash, that was money that Iran, under the Shah, had deposited for a military deal that fell through. I would argue that we shouldn't even have paid that back. But in this case, the $1.3 billion, that was taxpayer money. If you average that out, every man, woman, and child in the United States, on average, contributed the price of a large Starbucks to the Iranian mullahs. And I can suggest to you now, Iran probably didn't use that money for coffee.
Probably not.
So this was our money, this $1.3 billion. You and I paid that in taxes. And that's what the government will not tell us, how exactly it sent it, why it structured it that way. This is something where if you put it in a thriller, you say there's a big problem here. Anyway, and the crazy thing is that the administration is still just refusing to tell us. It's as if the American people have no right to know what has been done through this odd open-ended fund with their money, transferring it to the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism.
That's a lot to swallow. I thought that I read that the initial problem with this deal is that there were such tight controls on the transfer of money between the United States and Iran that the Iranian mullahs were getting angry that they weren't getting their money fast enough. And maybe this addresses some of that, because you still can't send money electronically from a United States bank to an Iranian bank. So they're right. They may have taken this and somehow exchanged it for Swiss francs again and flown it in.
Yeah, we don't know. The time, however, is just fascinating because, of course, the $400 million was sent on the same day that the American prisoners were released by Iran, and the plane was held, we now know, until after theirs was in the air. And the administration finally conceded after months of stonewalling that this was used for leverage against Iran. Although that still doesn't add up, because the administration also said Iran was going to get the money anyway. Anyway, the timing coincided perfectly with the release of prisoners, and then the time for the $400 million cash, and the timing for the $1.3 billion that was transferred in your tax dollars to Iran was just 2 days after that, the day in between being a federal holiday. So from a fund where normally it takes weeks to process the payment. With great haste, the administration made sure Iran had the entire $1.7 billion within the week.
We're talking to Claudia Rosett, who's a foreign policy fellow with the Independent Women's Forum. I think it's safe for me to speculate that unless we see a change in party in the administration, we'll never know the full details of this transaction.
That's quite likely. They've been seeping out in bits and pieces. Basically, the way this has worked is the Obama administration announced it as this wonderful deal on January 17th, but gave none of the eye-popping details, such as the cash, such as the breakdown of the $1.3 billion, such as where it went precisely. And since then, Congress has been asking questions. The press has been asking questions. Only when reporters have come across leads and been able to document a piece of this story. The Wall Street Journal breaking the story of the cash in early August. My own article last Monday on the 999 payments, the breakdown of the $1.3 billion. Has the administration finally conceded or confirmed pieces of the story? So they finally said, yeah, that was the Iran payment that went through on January 19th for $1.3 billion. Until then, they've refused to confirm the date. So tiny bits eked out. And again, what is the secrecy? This was a deal they said was a terrific deal. We still haven't even seen the terms of this settlement that they said was such a great deal. There's not a scrap of evidence to show us what, in fact, the full thing was. It's an amazing arrogance and actually insult to the American public, including President Obama's mockery of anyone who would be interested in the fact that he'd sent around $400 million in cash, something he never mentioned until the Wall Street Journal broke the story, and then he derided anyone who thought it was news.
Yeah, he specifically said, this is not news except the way the money was delivered, right, basically?
Yeah, he said, look, this is the kind of thing, maybe it sounds nifty because it sounds like a spy thriller or a crime novel or something. Well, the reason spy thrillers have scenes like $400 million in cash on pallets in the middle of the night is because that's how really shady deals get done. It's when you see that happening. My advice is if somebody offers to pay you $400 million in cash, worry about it. If somebody sends you $1.3 billion broken down into 13 payments of under $100 million each, walk away.
I would be fascinated if you ever find out exactly what the answer was to that. We're going to have you back on and talk about it because
we hope Congress will get to the bottom of this. They're planning to hold hearings this fall. So
something tells me Jason Chaffetz or somebody will be all over that. So I hope so. Claudia Rosett, I'll direct people to the Independent Women's Forum. You can read about this issue and many others there at IWF.org. Claudia, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good day. How about that? Let me send you $999,999, Liz. Just $1. You take that, wouldn't you? You wouldn't ask any questions, would you?
No. Like, I don't know what this was for, but it's in my bank account now, so I'm not going to say anything.
Neither did the mullahs over there in Iran. They didn't mind that at all.
Get more at 971talk.com.